morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Holman, and we're recording today on July 8th for the week of July 8th. I've got my man, Rob Lawlisher from Road 55, feed us some headlines. And Rob, let's jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Another good week here in the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. Got some really interesting stories that we're going to chat about. Things like Barter Pay. You know, what the heck is that? A new service has come out that may be of interest to local retailers. There's a new noteworthy campaign from the Canadian Gift Association we're going to chat about. A story with a bunch of predictions for retail after the pandemic, including this really interesting word I zeroed in on. I thought it was kind of fun, fidgetal. So we're going to talk about fidgetal. Incubation labs for retail, you know, those early stage retailers, and a neat story out of the States about an incubation spot helping them get off the ground. And really important discussion about the importance of frontline staff. So that topic's never going away and never more important than it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
Our first story, the Barter Pay came up. So I'll just quickly give you that from the story. It says this a unique concept that helps business owners barter their sunk cost, their idle inventory, their spare capacity for what they need instead of having to dip into those precious cash reserves. Dan, tell us your thoughts on this.
Love Barter Pay. Been a member of Barter Pay for a while. So Barter Pay, John Porter is the founder's name. And if you guys want to listen to a pretty good podcast, head over to Retail Insider. They've got a weekly podcast, and they actually just did one. I'm going to say that it was this last week. It maybe came out Monday. Okay. With John from Barter Pay talking about sort of the ecosystem that they've created. So bartering has been around forever. And what this has done now for retail, and even when we started to talk to them, they're based in southwestern Ontario, actually not far from my hometown. They're in Hamilton, and have done a lot of work in that southwestern Ontario area. But now they've started to sort of move across Canada. Okay. So we have a Barter Pay franchise here in northern Alberta. I believe they might be in either Sherwood Park or Red Deer. I can't remember right now. But so this ecosystem allows a retailer to give up idle inventory in exchange for a service. You see, when this first came out, I mean, this initial, platform, I think the story behind this was they partnered with Gulf North Properties. Gulf North Properties was a group of guys that bought a bunch of golf courses in southwestern Ontario. Okay. And you could buy a Gulf North membership and golf at one of 8 or 10 different golf courses at any given time. Well, they created this partnership with them that allowed them to give up idle tee times or empty tee times in exchange for dollars, but barter dollars. So for us, on the coaching side of the business, yeah, you can buy my services with barter dollars. So you make a deposit of your inventory, we'll say, for a retailer. You can dump off some idle inventory. This is a great thing for holiday or coming out of season or, some overruns. Not really a piecemeal idea, but I can put a block of inventory out there in exchange for dollars that I can use for services, web development, accounting, bookkeeping, retail consulting, point of sale activity. So it's kind of a great little program that they've built. And the thing that I like the most about Barter Pay is the charitable component. So, they also, not only can I, have they created this ecosystem for business and service, but also for charity. So they're raising money or using some of that money that they fund charitable organizations with as well. So you get, full barter credits or you get barter credits at full retail value that can go somewhere, that's needed, whether that is to charity or, to a service that you need in your store. So this is a great way for a retailer, that's tight on cash. I don't know many that aren't tight on cash. Yeah. If you're tight on cash, but you've got some inventory still, and lots of us, have some spring inventory we're sitting on, this might be a good opportunity for you to exchange it for some cash that you need in another area of the business, and you don't need that resource.
So for someone who's not used it before, not aware of it, is it so I'm physically shipping my excess inventory, and who
So you're
decides
not
what it's
really shipping
worth?
your
And
inventory. You're putting it out there available for sale, and you have a barter. So the whole barter pay system is a, it's a members only group,
okay,
and you pay your subscription fee. It's
yeah,
it's very cost effective, 50 or 60 bucks a month kind of thing. And if you're a member of the Canadian Chamber, I think it's even cheaper than that. You might even not pay to be a member. And that allows you to put inventory on a block when it, as it sells or when it sells. This idea of barter is having two people, one with a need and one with a supply at the exact same time. Well, you don't have to do that in the barter pay ecosystem. You put your goods out there and exchange it for dollars that you can use with something else. So not only now are you bartering, or you don't have to barter one-to-one, you barter with a large community. So it's a great little program. It's a great program that I think is going to get some legs. And again, Craig Patterson and John Porter did a podcast earlier this week, talked about what they were doing in the retail community. They've formed some partnerships, with Retail Council of Canada. So certainly worth a listen to these guys.
Right on. Well, we'll have the link to this story in our newsletter this week, so be sure to check that out if you haven't. Okay, moving on. We've got a great story coming off the wire here about the Canadian Gift Association. They're launching a new campaign to support local retail. It's called Buy the Way, Keep It Local, and buy is B-U-Y. And so they're putting it out there, a real grassroots campaign that they're going to do everything that they can to feature as many local retailers, giving them some of the marketing fuel to get their message out there. Good to see the association doing what they can to help retailers right now. Dan, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, when we look to, in this case, it's the, Canadian Gift Association. Can Gift is kind of how they're known. It's an association for gift stores, and you see everything from, they happen to highlight, one of our favorite garden centers, Greenland Garden Center, on their Instagram here earlier this week.
Yeah.
And so these guys are just coming out as an association and using a hashtag Keep It Local Canada, or on their Instagram account at Keep It Local Canada, and promoting local gift stores. And we say gift, it's anybody that carries gift. It's not it's not like I got to go and buy something. It's home and housewares, garden centers, apparel stores that have accessory. The gift market is a massive market. Alberta, when we go to the Alberta Gift Show, you're going to see, over 1,000 vendors. I mean, 10,000 people going to this thing. So these guys are banding together and saying, hey, let's, as an association, let's come out and try and support retail. So we love the idea that, they're picking up on the independents and, promoting them. This is a great cause that every association that has lived on the backs of retail should be standing up for them now. And, buy local, shop local, keep it in your community is not a new concept.
Right.
It's certainly not presenting itself as a new concept. They're just trying to highlight the power or the importance of supporting the local community. It doesn't take away from, the Canadian Tires of the world or the, Keg Steakhouses of the world. Yeah. It's just saying, focus your dollars inside your community where they do the most work. Shop local, and that doesn't mean, don't shop online. Most of our retailers now are out there with a digital space, not phygital. We'll talk about phygital later. But they're out there in the digital world, and we've got to support them. They're the, I say this all the time. They are the hockey moms and dads, the soccer moms and dads, the dance mom and dads. They're the ones that when I need something for my kid's baseball team or my grandson's baseball team, I go and talk to.
Yeah, totally. I think it's great to see because, as important as the support local, shop local is, it just can't be, you just can't sit on your hands and assume it. and expect it, right? You still got to participate, getting your message out there. So it's nice seeing the, an umbrella association. Hey, we're going to step in too and try and help push that message harder
and we're
than
going to
we
see
ever have.
so many stores close, Rob. So many businesses. I think Retail Insider, it was one of the headlines this morning. Hundreds of stores or thousands of stores are going to close in the summer of 2020. And the only way we mitigate closure is by supporting these stores, by getting out there and helping them and recognizing, if I'm going to spend $10, I'm far better off to go, drop it in a retailer's front door than, buying something from across the water or, the big bad A.
Yeah.
Although, we have the opportunity to sell on Amazon like anyone else. It's so important. So important
100%.
To help mitigate some of this attrition that we're staring at right now by supporting the local. And I love that, the Gift Association is stepping up for their community.
Right on. Well, remember, folks, by the way, BUY, so keep it local.
By the way.
This podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. From the latest point-of-sale software to e-commerce solutions, they've got Retail Pro to Heartland Retail, Shopify, and more. They have the retail solutions to make your store more successful. Let them help you find the cutting-edge retail solutions today. Visit retailbycrs.com. Okay, we brought it up a couple times. It's an exciting word. We're excited to talk about it. Phygital. Here's this story. It comes to us on Explica. I can't even say it properly. Link will be in the newsletter, folks. .co. The story is just talking about some predictions for what the retail sector will be like after the pandemic, and I think some may argue during as well, because we're in for a bit of a long run, and there's going to be different approaches to it. But this one talked about, again, that fun word, phygital, where it says it's not just about the omni-channel, but rather a symbiotic relationship that understands the advantages of each channel serve to optimize interaction between customers and retail. Okay, Dan, phygital, give me your nickels worth here.
Phygital is, these guys, Phygital is this convergence of physical and digital, and or this sort of symbiotic relationship between physical and digital. This article tries to separate phygital, the physical and digital space, separate it from omni-channel. And depending on your understanding of omni-channel, the definition of omni-channel, phygital is very similar to that. I think the biggest thing that I took in this article, was the idea that you have to create this unique presentation in every channel of the business. And when we think about omni-channel, we talk about this synonymous experience, that it's the same digitally as it is physically or in your brick and mortar store. And this phygital, I think they're hoping to get a buzzword out of this thing, because they're saying, if you don't remember this word or this term, here it is again. But it's the idea that, or the belief, the mantra, that each space, digital and physical, must have its own personality, must have its own unique offering or way of doing business. And when I talk about this retail drive, that to make this work, you've got to create this experience that brings two worlds together. And for me, it's still omni-channel. And omni-channel, one singular channel that allows me to deliver my customer experience. In this example, we're saying you've got to create experiences that combine these two worlds, in an accurate way, designing relevant, and different elements for each channel. And I don't know if it necessarily has to be a different experience on each channel, but if I'm shopping, on my couch in my nutsack underwear.
Yep.
You know, I maybe don't need the same experience as I do when I walk through your front door. I'm looking for something that maybe is more streamlined, but I still want to be treated with the respect and admiration that I would get as I walk through your front door. And in fact, you know, we've created this opportunity to speak to that digital customer, that online customer, in a more personal way now. I was, you know, looking at You Suck at Golf. You Suck at Golf is a new brand in the US. Maybe it's not too new, but they've got some funky stuff. And we were looking at some of their golf gear for an event that we're doing. Okay. And, you know, I moved something into a cart to try to understand what that experience looked like on their site.
Yeah.
Well, when I closed my browser, about 3 minutes later, I got a text message, you know, from a guy named Matt saying, "Hey, man, you left without buying. Can I give you a discount to buy?" But it was like, you know, it was personalized in that, you know, they knew who I was already.
Right.
And if we don't recognize that, you know, we need to quickly do. And you know, then they get the 24-hour email back. So there's this connection that needs to happen in that space to make me feel important. And that's what that was doing. Yep. Saying, hey, it's important for you to reach out to us. It's important for us to connect with you. We don't want to lose you as a customer, even though they didn't have me yet.
Here's a question for you. Small retailer, brick and mortar, abandoned cart. They're walking out, no bags in hand.
Right.
What are some ideas that retailers can, you know, you just explained a great setup of what happens when you digitally abandon a cart. Yeah. What should be happening in the brick and mortar retail with that exact same problem?
You know, Rob, the challenge that we have in brick and mortar today, our focus is so heavily weighted on the sale that we lose track of the experience, the wow. You know, I go back to one of my favorite cultural stories ever, you know, the Seattle fish market and the fish philosophy and, you know, their 4 core values, you know, play, have some fun in the store, be there, connect with people, right? You know, create a memory. And what we don't do, pardon me, in our brick and mortar store is focus on the memory. Not everybody that walks in the store is ready to buy right now. Everyone that walks in the store is in a different phase. They may be dreaming, they may be exploring, they may be selecting, you know, but we don't know that. And if our emphasis is only on, hey, this is what's on sale, hey, buy this, hey, buy this, it doesn't create a good experience. And that follow-up, that making a memory for someone, you've heard this 1,000 times, the wow experience. I want people to walk out of my store and go, wow, that was I didn't buy anything.
Right.
But damn, you know, I needed to. I'll tell you a quick story.
But it's
I've told this story 100 times. They left with an empty cart. You know, one of the biggest mistakes people make is the greeting. It is the lack of a greeting. And there's 2 kinds of greetings that happen in your store. There is the greeting when someone walks in, and then there's the exit greeting. And the exit greeting is the most important greeting of all. It's how you say goodbye, you know, to your best friend. And so we moved here to Alberta in 2007. For the first time, Marlene and I are in Banff. We're going, you know, up and down Banff Avenue. And you know how many stores are on Banff Avenue. I mean, it's a crazy amount of stores. And I get this feeling after the first 5 or 6 stores, like they don't care. Like everybody's a tourist. Everybody's a tire kicker. Nobody gives a crap.
Playing the numbers game. You're here once.
Yeah. And so I said to Marlene, let's play a game. You know, let's go into every store. And the first store that exit greets us, the first store that acknowledges us leaving, not coming, but leaving, we're going to buy something, right? Awesome. And if it's a girl store, a woman's store, you buy something, a guy store, I'll buy something. Man, oh man, you know, we started, I don't know, maybe at Caribou or whatever in Banff, and we walked in every frickin' store without getting sometimes not an entrance greeting, not a good morning, good day, how are you, but no exit greetings. Nobody gave a shit that we were in and out of their store. We went up one side of Banff Avenue, about halfway down the other, and we walk in the store, we do the trail, and we're walking out the door, and this girl from behind the counter says, "Hey guys, thanks for coming in today. I hope you have an awesome day." And that's what it took. That's the exit greeting.
Back you went.
I mattered. Yep. Turned around and Marlene bought a piece of jewelry.
Nice.
Not a cigar store, not a wine store, jewelry store. But it's the power of the greeting that does that. And that's what connects you to your customer. And I think, later on, we're going to talk about one of the steps in the wealthy retailer system. Yep. The greeting and the engagement of your customer is what drives your business. And there's far too much emphasis on sales today. And this is what happens. In your brick and mortar store, people are walking out with an empty cart and you have no way to follow up with them because you didn't create a connection with them while they were in your store.
Well, that I'm sure I'm going to butcher the line, but that saying of they may not remember exactly what you say, but they'll sure remember how you made them feel.
How you made them feel. Yeah. 100%.
Just, the power of that. Like, even though they're empty cart, they're walking out. But if you left them with a good feeling coming back, I like the chances of them coming back your way.
I think, Rob, this is why we work so hard to create ambassadors for our stores, not customers. Yep. I don't need customers in my store. I need ambassadors. Ambassadors both buy, and promote. And so when someone leaves my store, when you leave my store, I want you to say to someone, "Oh, you got to go check out, Twig and Berries. You got to go check out CRS. You got to go talk to Lindsay at Bella Moss because, it's the greatest experience ever." And I use this, in coaching sometimes, how often do you ask someone for a recommendation for a restaurant? "Hey, I've got some friends coming into town. Where should we go for dinner?" "Oh, you got to go to Sorrentino's, St. Albert. You got to go to Sorrentino's. You got to go to Bucco." "Well, where do you go?" "Bucco." Right? "I trust you."
Right.
And so the same thing, I need a dress. I need a pair of jeans. I need a polo. I need a bag. Where should I go? It's that ambassadorship that pushes me to that store. And if we focus on creating ambassadors, we generate our own traffic. We generate our own opportunities.
100%. Well, this next story, let's talk about early opportunities here, because this is helping folks get right off the ground. Story out of Dayton, not Daytona.
Dayton, Ohio.
I had car racing on the brain for a moment there. The DaytonDailyNews.com talks about retail lab incubators, and it's cool because it also references the early success of their pop-up shop program. So it's almost like they had two programs going. The retail lab builds on this success. It brings the focus even further to providing resources to entrepreneurs who are either already down here trying to find a way in the downtown market. So it's built off of a market as well. I've always referred to farmers markets as I guess outside of your basement or your garage, they're your second incubator.
Right.
But your thoughts, Dan, on just, I'll say, the topic of incubation and should more retailers, should more communities be doing this to help their retailers get off the ground? What are your thoughts?
100% yes. Oh gosh, yes. And almost every community has some level of incubation or collaboration for retail. In St. Albert, I think we have the Collective, which brings together, different people, in a space. And I think that what I liked about this story, a few things, but one of the things that really stood out was, that the downtown core was saying, "Hey, we've got to help entrepreneurs, and we've got to help our retailers, and we've got to give them a way to get in front of people, and not just, get in front of people with their product, but get in front of people with the experience and coach them and guide them and help them." Incubation is nothing new. Incubation is, this idea of collaborative services, collaborative support for each other in a single place. We look at NABI in Northern Alberta, the business incubation.
Yeah.
I get an office, I get a boardroom, I get some services, and it helps to incubate my business. It puts me in a little bubble, gives me some level of protection, and allows me to grow and expand and really understand what I need to do. And in this case, they're bringing in entrepreneurial experts, and giving some guidance to retail. And we see these kinds of collaborative pop-ups happen all over the place. West Edmonton Mall did a collaborative pop-up, where they did a small incubation, a small pop-up, 12 stores over holiday, and they park them in the center of the mall, and they say, here's a space, here's all the services that you need to bring in your products and sell. And I think that the Carmazians did it in Mall of America, they did it here, and we see it all over the place. Right. And we need more incubation. And this idea, that I have to pay so much attention to my competition instead of, collaborating and removing competition in my community, not removing it, but protecting myself, from the negative that competition can sometimes bring, by focusing more on collaboration. And that's really what this is about. 100%. It is incubation, but it is at a collaborative level.
When you you talked earlier about that it's going to be a challenging summer, challenging year. There's going to be closures. When you look at the incubation side, an idea that a thought pops into my head is this a role that municipalities can play, where they can go out to the commercial landlords and say, look, we'll be your AAA rent in some areas, but we want to help incubate some pop-ups, and we'll give them a hand for a few months, but they're going to pay. There's nothing free. There's going to be a lot of empty spaces out there. Is this a tactic that might help fill that space?
I think it is a tactic that will help. And if we have this idea, so on the municipalities, 100%, yes, absolutely. We should be going back to economic development and saying to the economic development arms in our communities, let's come up with a way. Let's strategize how we can put some retailers, in business. Let's take some empty space and do a collaboration or do a collective, and do it on percentage rent. Nothing is free, and we don't need a hand out. We need a hand up, right, to help some of these retailers. And the municipalities could easily do this. There's enough vacancy today, and there's going to be more vacancy, that we could go out to businesses or prospective businesses and say, hey, this is what we've created, as the Edmonton Economic Development division, or the St. Albert Economic Development division. This is what we've done, and we can collaborate together. We can pull together a community of 3 or 4 services or retailers, which kind of happens in a lot of markets. That's what the market does. It brings together people in their ideal pop-up locations.
Well,
I'll tell you, Steve Brooks was Steve Brooks was a guest on our podcast late last year, and he is the pop-up expert, and he's going to tell you this exact same thing, and that's a good guy to follow, retailers. Follow Steve Brooks, the pop-up expert, and listen to some of the pop-up, advice that he's giving, free advice that he's giving. This is how you test, get into a space, where you're not tied in, where it is a collaborative environment.
I think of another guest you had on the Wealthy Retailer in St. Albert, Rob Tryon, who owns Effing Seafoods.
Yes.
He started literally the back, I don't want to say the back of the truck or van, but at farmers markets. He built it on his own to the point where he picked up a significant piece of real estate in St. Albert, and he's full brick and mortar. Did not abandon the pop-up. That's still a big part of his operation, but he's a pretty go-get-'em type of guy.
For sure.
And I guess when I look at what's happening, I just really hope those economic development authorities, the municipalities, don't sit back and just wait for those go-getters. I think they need to get in front of them. Go walk, St. Albert's got one of the biggest markets in Western Canada. Like walking each booth and say, what's your next plan? How can we help you open your brick and mortar store? And I bet how many farmers markets have asked that question.
No question. And the thing about this one in this St. Albert farmers market, it's driven, it's managed, it's owned by the St. Albert Chamber of Commerce. Their job is to support their mission.
Yep.
One of their missions is to support business, advocate for that small to medium sized businesses. And there's no reason that they shouldn't be, trying to promote permanent space in this pop-up environment. And there's a lot of potential retailers, at that market. I don't know how many hundred vendors they've got now. We walked the market last Saturday, and it's crazy big.
Yep. Big stuff. Okay. Dan mentioned it earlier. He's got some great videos on his website, and one of them, the 12 steps of retail. And this week we're picking an item that I just grabbed it out of the air, and we want to hear what Dan has to say with it. Your sales volume is consequential. Dan, explain.
Sales volume is absolutely consequential. Sales are the result of successive steps or encounters, in the process. And I think I said this a couple of minutes ago. Far too many of us focus on sales and not the things that make up sales. When you understand the three things that make up sales volume, when you break things down into smaller chunks, you can better apply improvement or coaching, or your skill set to each of those areas. Sales volume is traffic times conversion times average sale. So if I have 10 people walk through my door, yep. I sell 5 or 50%, 5 of them, they each buy $100, my sales volume is $500. Now, if I want a 10% sales increase, what do I focus on? Well, if I add one more customer, what happens? If I add $10 to the average sale, what happens? If I convert one more, if I connect with one more, my sales volume goes up. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, said this earlier, if we'd focus more energy on the connection, on the experience, on the ambassadorship, yep. Sales would follow, and it would be consequential. Right. Consequence, it happened because it happened, on the trail of this. And sales is a consequence of my ability to generate traffic through my door, front or digital, doesn't matter, create a great experience for them that allows them to buy, yep. and provide a total solution that allows them to increase the average ticket. And if I increase my traffic, if I increase my conversion, or I increase my average sale, my sales volume goes up. And too many retailers, gosh, my sales are 30% off. What do? Well, I don't know. Is your traffic down? What's your conversion at? What's your average sale at? What's your UPTs? How many times do you sell a pair of pants without a belt, or, shoes with no socks, or, glasses with no screwdriver? There's just so many opportunities. And this video really walks through. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Instead of saying, okay, wait a minute, if I focus a little more energy on connecting with people, especially in today's world, there is zero excuse for someone to walk out of your door without a bag. Zero. Yeah. If they walk out of your store without a bag, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Right? There are not a lot of tire kickers in our life right now. There are buyers, people that are in the selecting phase. We think about, we have a selling system, we have a selling model, we sell this way. Well, customers buy in that same, stream. They start by dreaming about what they want. They look at the internet, they look in magazines, they're dreaming about what they want to buy or what they want to curate. They go from dreaming to exploring. What are my buying opportunities? Where could I find what I'm looking for to fulfill this vision that I'm creating? And whether that's an outfit, a house, the buying process is the same. And I move from dreaming to exploring to selecting. Well, fast forward today, everybody that walks through your door is in fact in selection mode. They're risking their life. They're making this conscious decision to walk into your store, and they trust that you're going to protect them, but they're walking in there to buy. Yeah. And if you create a great experience for them, a great engagement. When I say experience, it is the acknowledgement that she's there. This admiration that you have, that that she took time out of her day to walk in my store. I'm going to give you my undivided attention.
Totally. 100%. No, that's great. And you have so many, well, it's great 12-step video. And the full video is at retailbycrs.com, folks, if you want to go check out the full piece. So much of what you hit on, Dan, lends itself to those frontline staff. And that's our next, not really a story. It was a blog post from a significant thought leader in the world of marketing, Seth Godin. He brought up Krulak's Law. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that exactly right, but it just zeroes in on the experience people have with your brand is typically in the hands of the person you pay the least. And it's a reality. Krulak's Law, just for those not familiar with it, it's a military origin, and but it comes from General Krulak put this out, and it was talking about soldiers originally, and I found it so interesting that he talked about the 3-block war in wartime, that within just those 3 blocks, Marines are expected, they're required to conduct, full-scale military action, peacekeeping, and humanitarian activities all at once. And the importance of their leadership training for the front line was so important. And take it away, Dan. Like you're obviously hitting on all these points, but it all relates back to that front line that we have in our retail.
Right. And I think that, when we look at, Seth's message, this wasn't an article. This was a 2-sentence blog kind of thing. It was really short, but it was poignant. He's talking about, that our frontline people are priceless assets in our business. They're not cogs in the wheel. They're not, cheap cogs. They're priceless. Right. Yeah. And, I grew up in the furniture world.
Okay.
And, we used to talk to our teams about, the most important person in the relationship or in the process, when buying furniture for your home, isn't the salesperson, it isn't the designer, it isn't the curator of product, it's the delivery guy. He's the frontline guy. And in your store, it is that exact same thing. We focus far too much energy on wages and how much people make and minimum wage and all that other bullshit, instead of saying, hey, wait a minute, you are the most important person in this relationship for our customer, and you need to be able to make a life, not a living, and not a fair wage, but a wage that rewards. I say not a fair wage. I mean that the emphasis isn't on fair wage. The emphasis is on, pay for performance. When you create that great experience for my customer, you're going to be rewarded for it. And it's got some tie to, this idea that, yes, I need operational people. Yes, I need delivery men. Yes, I need, buyers and curators and merchandisers. Yep. But that person, that frontline person that speaks, that looks your customer in the eye, is the most priceless asset that you have. And we do not invest enough in our frontline staff. And this kind of speaks to it. Seth, he's got the great boom. Here you go. Mic drop.
Yeah. Well, and so much of that investment speaks to the training, giving them the trust and the responsibility and the authority to do things, right. Yeah. And so yeah, just a great takeaway, just something to think about. That your point of, obviously money is super important. It's all there, but if that's all that is there, that is all that you will be talking about with your frontline staff.
Right.
If you're not investing in them in other ways to make them grow, because mark my words, they will grow if you invest in them. And the old saying of what if we invest in them and they leave, and I love the line back of what if we don't and they stay. Yeah. Listen, you said the authority. We have to recognize how valuable that frontline person is and empower them to make decisions that put smiles on customers' faces, instead of, oh, let me go and get my manager, or, oh, that's against our policy, or, oh, no, that's all bullshit. Yeah. Empower your frontline people to create ambassadors for your business and give them the tools and the training and the knowledge that they need. And
they should outgrow us. They should outgrow us. That is evolution.
Yeah.
You know, I look at some of these, you know, I played golf with somebody on I think it was Sunday morning, maybe 35 years in the same job.
Wow.
You know, and I said to him, how do you do that? How do you do it? How do you spend 35 years, you know, in the same place? Do you feel like you're suppressed or not growing? And he said, you know what? The company that he worked for gave him every opportunity to grow. He has the same, he was hired with the exact same title he retired with.
Oh, wow.
But he grew inside that.
Yep.
You know, with that company, and you have to allow your people to grow, and some will leave.
Yep.
Some will, and that's what we do. And in retail, let's remember, you know, we don't have a lot of lifers in our business. We have a lot of in-betweeners. You know, they're in between, you know, school and career. You know, in fashion today, yes, we have some lifers, and we want to, you know, give them everything we can. And for those that are in, you know, in the transient retail world, you want to give that person, you know, Doug Webster from Staples in St. Albert, another guest on our podcast, really talked about, you know, his responsibility is to help that employee grow, to help them mature to a place where they're better positioned for their next step. And I love that about, you know, growing your people.
Right on. Thanks for that. Okay, sir. Boy,
yeah,
a lot of good stories. This
time
week.
Flies when you're having fun.
100%. Yeah,
there are a ton of good stories. And guys, thank you, you know, for listening. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, head over to your favorite podcast platform, search out The Wealthy Retailer, subscribe, like, comment. We love your feedback. And yeah, you know, here we are. We're just cleared off the first week of July and rocking into summer.
No, we're rocking. So as we said, you know, we'll have links to these stories in this week's newsletter, retailbycrs.com. Head over there. In addition, we've got some other stories that didn't quite make our conversation cut this week, but still interesting nonetheless. An old historical power station's got a breath of new life into it as a retail building. That was an interesting story. Here's a big one, the secret to unlocking Gen Z. And if you're not familiar with that, that's your 18 to 25-year-olds and how you get their loyalty, who, by the way, they hold about 40% consumer spending power. So you might be interested in that story and a couple more. So, great week.
Great reads.
That was a good little podcast. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.